After months of waiting, we finally have the answer. What will the Utah Hockey Club be called? And it is the Utah Mammoth. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest and greatest in the world of sports. And on this channel, we love talking about sports uniforms and logos. Again, I've always been infatuated with sports designs, how teams come up with identities, and how the ultimate product looks. Now, again, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of our latest content. And of course, check out our community page for all the latest going on with the channel. So the Utah Mammoth are now the 32nd team officially in the National Hockey League. And there's a lot to like about this logo. I'm going to go through my thoughts on the logo. I'm going to go through my thoughts on the different secondary logos and word marks. And finally, my thoughts on the uniform. Again, I'm going to give you my honest opinions, what I like, what I think can be improved, and what I could also see this team doing in the future going forward. Now, very simply, I think this is a nice, clean logo. I know this has gotten some comparisons because in some of the NHL games, there's a logo very similar to this. But overall, I think this fits this team really well. I think it fits the area very well. And it is a really good use of the color palette of the light blue, the white, and the black that Utah Hockey Club has endorsed. Now, there are some nice subtleties into this logo. I like how they combine the mountaintops out in Utah into the top of the logo, the white on the logo meant to represent the snow. And if you notice behind the eyes toward the left side of the Mammoth, that last little snow cap on the far left is in the shape of the state of Utah. So some nice little subtle reference to the state in the logo. Overall, I think this is a clean logo. I think this is a crisp logo. I also like how they have the tusk forming the U basically, or a mock U into the logo as well. A lot of very nice elements, very simple, very clean. And overall, I'm very happy with this logo. And during the concept art, we did see that this team was looking at a couple different logos. One of the elements to the Utah Hockey Club logo was that they were using the Yeti logo, which had a similar mountaintop facade, and I'm glad that they incorporated that. Now, going back to Yeti, because Yeti has been the team name that has been thrown around a lot with this organization. And overall, I think Mammoth was a good runner-up. I think all of us would have liked to see the Utah Yeti, but unfortunately, they weren't able to do that because of the Yeti trademark. So they went with the Mammoth. I'm just happy they didn't go with the Utah Hockey Club. Again, I know some people like that name. I feel like you need a true identity within the National Hockey League, and just Utah Hockey Club just didn't really roll off the tongue very well. But overall, I think this is a very impressive logo. But we also got a lot of their other trademarks. As you can see, these are the secondary logos. This is the secondary words marks. So I will say I really like the secondary logo, the U with the tusk in it. I think that's a really clean logo. I think it really fits very well, and you can see the tusk almost looks like a U. That is probably one of my favorite logos, and I do think I will be mentioning that logo in a little bit. I also like the Utah State logo, which is in the bottom right corner. Again, it's in the shape of the state of Utah with a hockey stick going down the edge, using the colors. And I also really like the word mark that they used in these logos. So overall, I think the organization did a very good job. I really think the secondary logos are strong. But let's get to the uniforms, and I have some very strong thoughts on the Utah Hockey Club's uniform. So as you can see, to the left is the home black, to the right is the road whites, and it looks like they haven't introduced a third jersey. I get the feeling that especially with the Utah Hockey Club jersey last year, now with New Jersey this year, maybe the team waits a year or two to introduce an alternate. My pitch for an alternate is using that baby blue. I think a baby blue with the black accents would really pop. And I really think you could use a new logo, which would look incredibly well, or even the Utah State logo. Now, for the home black jersey, I really like. I think the crest looks amazing on the black jersey, really sticks out. The blue accents look really well with the white. I like the shortened collar around the neck. And I also like the shoulder yokes, which is the Utah State logo on the shoulder blades, which I think is really good. I think that this is a really crisp jersey. I think it's a really smooth jersey. And overall, I think it is a very nice jersey, and I'm excited to see it on the ice. I don't think it's one of the better ones in the league, but I do think that this will be a very solid jersey. I think this was just very well done. I'm interested to see an alternate jersey, but I have to get to the white jerseys because the white jerseys to me, I was disappointed in. And it's not necessarily Utah's fault. I have this thing, and this is me personally. There's this trend in the NHL that I despise, and that's basically the diagonal script uniforms because it almost seems like a lazy attempt by teams to just come up with the uniform. If you're the New York Rangers, that's your look. That's historically what you've used. I'm okay with that. But what started bothering me was when teams like Colorado started doing it. Teams like Carolina started doing it with just canes on the jersey. Pittsburgh, even with the gin and juice ties to that jersey. I just felt like you have such better logos, and you on a hockey jersey, it's always better to have a crest than just a word script. So the diagonal lettering on the white jersey to me was a major, major fail for the Utah Hockey Club. Not to say that this isn't a nice jersey. I think the black and the baby blue look really nice. I think especially on ice, it's a good looking jersey. I thought it looked crisp last year, but this just feels like almost kind of copy and paste from the uniform they wore last year. And it feels like instead of trying to get away from that Utah Hockey Club moniker, they didn't really do that with the Utah road jerseys. Again, if they really were that desperate to do the white Utah, I think a thing I would have done was take that alternate logo that they have with the state and the hockey stick, and instead of having being a black logo, maybe have it be white on the white jersey with Utah in the middle, or maybe a light blue in the middle of the jersey. That would really pop. I also think the Utah script or the U logo would look really good on this jersey, but just Utah across the chest, just diagonal, it just to me feels like a side because it feels like it's not creative. And especially when you have these all new logos that you just unveiled, some really nice third logos, some nice secondary logos. And I do think a really nice crest, just seeing the jersey just say Utah just feels like it was a major letdown. Now, again, I don't think this is one of the worst jerseys in the league. I think it's a crisp jersey. I still think it looks good on the ice. But it just feels like after months of waiting and months of anticipation in order to see what this Utah logo was going to look like on a jersey, and seeing that's only on one of the jerseys in the middle. And I do think that you have secondary logos that could have looked really good here. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but I will also say the black jersey came out great. I have a feeling that in the long term, this team will eventually get away from the Utah script on the white jersey. Maybe they'll adapt the logo to the white jersey or develop a secondary logo or use one of the secondaries. But I'm also going to predict that they will have an alternate jersey within 3 or 4 years. And if I had to guess, it's going to be a baby blue with the black, which I think will be a very nice color palette and will be reminiscent. And I think could really look good like the Winter Classic jerseys the Penguins wear when they wear their baby blues. Those are always gorgeous. But overall, I think the Utah Hockey Club did very well. I like the logo. And again, they were in a tough position because it's clear their number one choice, the Yeti, they couldn't use. I felt that they chose a good mascot. I think it's a good hockey name. I think it's a good solid logo. I like the elements to the logo, and I really like their home jersey. I just feel like their away jersey is a little bit of a letdown because it just doesn't differentiate that much from last season. But those are my thoughts on the Utah Hockey Club jersey and name and new logo. But what are your thoughts? What are the elements of the jerseys that you like? What's elements of the logo that you really stand out to you? What are your favorite secondary logos for this team? And what other teams are you interested in the NHL to see how they're going to rebrand over the coming months before we get to the 2025-2026 season? Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us here on Rich Sports Talk. Always appreciate. Again, we will be doing a lot more jerseys from across the sports world throughout the coming months. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the latest. And if there's certain jerseys you want me to review, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to review them. But until next time, I'm Nolan Rich, and this is Rich Sports Talk.